Hey everybody, DM Jim here. Welcome to, I think this is officially the first live project broadcast of mine. The last one we didn't make it to the crafting part. It is Friday. It is 1 p.m. Eastern, maybe not where you are. And we're going to do some crafting today live. You're going to be able to ask me questions. I'm going to be able to ask you questions probably. Just a few orders of business. One thing, this 1 p.m. Eastern slot, it works for me. I hope it works for you. I think for now, this is when you can expect to see more of these. I will do some in the evenings. I will do some on the weekends when I have the time available. But traditionally, I'm going to try and do these on Wednesdays at 1 and Fridays at 1. And if I do any additional ones, I will certainly let you know in advance. Take a look at the bottom of your screen. Now, I think you're seeing what I see. You should see a little button down there that says ask a question. If you click that, you can submit a question. I'll get like an alert of some sort that somebody has posted a question, and I'll try to get to those and answer them before the video ends. This one's going to last no more than an hour. So if I accidentally miss a question of yours, I will still be able to check them here, and I will post a comment with this video when the when it goes just for anyone to see that's not live. If you would not mind, I see a few of you are here. Hello, Kemper. Good to see you, buddy. Ron Purvis, welcome. Bethany. Hi, Bethany, again. Let's see. That is all that I've got saying hello right now. If you want to lurk, not a problem. But I'd love to know you're out there. And again, if you have any questions, still trying to get over con crud. Sorry. All I can tell you is I came home with it and I hit NyQuil for 2 nights in a row, and I'm better. I'm not stopped up. My throat still hurts, but anyway. All right, so what are we going to be doing today? In just a moment, I'm going to switch the camera over to this thing here. I'm still working on my workshop. I'm trying to get it where cords won't be in the way and you'll get some better shots, angles, and things like that. But for right now, just bear with me as I'm trying to get my workshop more usable. In just a second, I'm going to move that camera up to this thing up here so that you're looking down at my work desk from an angle, not from above, because sometimes I think the coming in at an angle will work better, especially when I'm explaining stuff and talking and things like that. So Bethany says I'm trying to ward it off. Yeah, Bethany, I hope you avoided it. For those of you who aren't aware, Kemper and Bethany and I were at Mace Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina last weekend. And anytime you attend a convention, you roll the dice whether you get a come home with a bug or cold or something like that. So apparently some people are getting it. All right, so before I begin, just give me a thumbs up. Is video quality good? Is sound quality good? Because I'm now on a Ethernet line, so hopefully the video is a little better than it was last time. Sure hope so. Kemper says looks great. Okay, good to know. You both, yes, both are better than last time. Thank you, Bethany. I am going to, please bear with me, I'm going to move this camera. There we go. That should be better. All right, and I'm going to scoot this in a little closer. And, all right, there we go. All right, so what are we doing today? Well, a lot of you who are here probably already know I am going to be trying to recreate this beauty. This is a printable scenery 3D printed model. It is a Dwarven tower. You can see it's all around. Every side has something to look at. It was printed in, I believe, 12 pieces, and I glued them together. A few of the things I want you to notice about this before we start. It is not symmetrical. What's on the left is not on the right. You can see that? It is also an irregular tower. This side over here has an angle that goes up, and it's pretty consistent. This side over here. This side is not so. It goes up, then it goes in sharp, then it goes up again. So I think what that does is when you're looking at it from the front, it doesn't look perfect. It looks like each level was built individually with its own, quirks. And I think sometimes when towers are too perfect, like for instance, if from the bottom all the way to the top, if that side is perfectly smooth in the same angle, it looks fake. At least that's my opinion. So going into this, one of the things I'm going to be doing is working consistently on not allowing my tower to become perfect looking. It's going to have some imperfections. It's going to have some wild angles. And most important, it is not going to have that symmetry. One more thing, I am going to stick with some of the things you see here, like the balconies. There's one here and one over here. There is a staircase that wraps around the side here that goes up into a door. And this staircase comes around and terminates into the big staircases here. If you look in here, the first level, I don't know if you can see it, the light's not so good. Inside here, the first level is not here. It's 2 inches above the base. So where these stairs terminate, that's the first level, all right? The first level is just a hair over 4 inches tall, which in gaming terms, that's 20 feet. That's a 20-foot ceiling. That makes sense for a grand entry hall. You don't want to have a 10-foot ceiling, have a 20-foot, and then each level above this is about 10 feet tall. So what we're going to start today, or what I'm going to start, is I'm going to build the base. That is what everything's going to sit on, and it's not including these stones. That will be added later. I'm talking about just the base, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this paper over here. I had my notes here. I'm going to take dimensions. All right, so I'm going to line this up on my mat here from left to right, and I'm including the staircase over here. Actually, I'm going to spin it so you can see the stairs. From the staircase here all the way over to this wall, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 inches, all right? And I'm betting that if I rotate it this way, it's going to be very close, not counting the stairs. I'm not going to count the stairs. I'm eyeballing certain things that you can't see. I'm eyeballing this edge with a line on here. So if I'm looking at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.5. Well, you know what? Not counting the stone, I'm going to call it 6 inches. So it is not sitting on a perfect square. But knowing this dimension, that verifies what I already know about this piece. It is not symmetrical. So to force myself to stay in this footprint, I don't want to build a tower bigger than this one. I certainly don't want it wider and things like that. I'm going for this because a lot of people don't have 3D printers, and I want to show you how now I'm not saying you, how I would recreate this using chipboard, foam, and other materials. If you're not familiar with this is chipboard. It's very thick. It's like a cardboard. You can buy it in quantity. I'm very short on it, so I'm panicking because I think I have like 6 sheets left. I need to reorder it, and I will put a link somewhere when this video ends where you can go get this. And I'm going to be using Wylock's link. Bill, Wylock's Armory, he's the one who put me onto this, and so I always like to send people to his channel so that you can buy it, because he has an Amazon affiliate link, and he gets a little bit of a bonus, some cash when you buy it from him. It doesn't cost you anymore. It just Amazon pays him a little bit, sort of like a finder's fee. So what I'm doing right now is I'm cutting this chipboard 7 inches wide. Now I want you all to be aware, this is live. Anything can happen. I try to be very careful when I'm using a blade. I try to always know where the blade is, where my fingers are, things like that. But on the off chance during these live events, if I should ever have an accident, slice a finger or whatever, we will immediately end the video unless it's not too bad. I do have Band-Aids down here, but if it's a bad cut, please understand, I'm going to go get that taken care of. So I may have to end a video very abruptly, but I hope not to have to do that. So what I'm doing now is I'm cutting it 6 inches this way, and I'm doing this because by having the actual dimensions of the base I want to limit myself to, I won't accidentally go too big. I don't want to go too small. So obviously I want to stay with this dimension. This is going to be the bottom. All right. Now, I'm not going to make a tower with that as the bottom. I need it to look a little irregular. So there's a lot of ways you can do this. You could freehand it, but freehanding is not really the way I want to go here. This is built by dwarves. Dwarves traditionally, they build things at angles. I'm speaking from a fantasy setting. Elves tend to have very pretty curvy things. Dwarves tend to have harsh angles or definite angles with no real, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, no natural, like things that would occur in nature. You would look at this and know this was built by someone's hands. For that reason, I won't be having curves. Curves can occur in nature, and we don't want that kind of thing here. So I'm going to put this down here, and I'm going to be looking at this. Now, again, I'm not copying this. I just want it to sort of fill the same footprint. So looking at this front wall is wide. We have a thin wall, The back wall is big, and then every wall is almost a different width. How do I know this? Because I actually went and took a ruler and I measured it. I don't know if you can tell, but this is a little wider than this. It's kind of hard for you to tell on the video, but you'll have to trust me on it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to randomly make some marks here. And I'm doing them by eye. I'm doing them based on what I think will look good. And before I make any cuts, you're going to see a lot of lines on here. So the lines will help me decide if I made a mistake or not. So the first thing I did here was I drew a 1 1/4 in, and I drew a line down. So there's a 1 1/4. I'm going to go not 1 1/4 over here. I'm going to go, let's go 1. Not too great of a change, but your eye will still pick it up. I don't know what the scientific studies are on your eyeball, but I've heard, our eyes can detect lots of different colors, right? Millions, even though we can't identify them, but our cones in our eyes can identify millions and millions of colors. Our eyes are also very good at picking up angles. I mean, we can tell if something is greater, or if you have two angles, we can usually tell when one is not as, I'm using my hands here, which is a bad thing to do, but I'm going to show you what I mean. So I'm going to draw a 1-inch line again here. And if you'll just bear with me, I'll explain what's going on. This tower has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's an octagon, except this side is very long. So it's not a true octagon. So what does that mean? Well, as soon as I can make my 1-inch marks, I'm going to show you. I think what I enjoy most about this Dwarven tower is the fact that it just looks so good in person. Some of you may have seen it at Mace last week, but it doesn't have a pattern to it. It's very unusual looking, and I can't get it. I'm gonna make this one 1.5. So every dimension that I've done here is a little different. All right, here we go. All right, so let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to hold this up. All right, so I've drawn this into 4 lines. Your eye should be able to tell that this distance is thicker than this distance. Can you see that? You should be able to. And especially if you follow it all the way down, you can look and see that this column is not as wide as this. And it's only 1/4 of an inch difference. Turning it this way, it's even easier to see. Much wider here, much thinner here. But if you take this far away, it gets harder to tell, actually. Well, I can still tell, but you'd have to go kind of far away before your eye is not able to judge these distances. So the reason I'm doing this is I'm going to look. I want to connect these corners. All right, these are going to be the start of walls, and I can already tell you that they're a little too shallow, but there's a reason for that. Let me color it in, and I'm going to show you. All right, so and again, this is a prototype, not a prototype. This is the early start of the project, so there's plenty of time to make changes. All right, so I'm not making any cuts yet. So if I went with a tower and cut these corners off, you could see the basic outline. It is an octagon. Got that? I mean, I think an octagon, all the sides are the same width. Maybe I'm wrong, but you can obviously tell all of these sides are not the same. This one is the same as that, however, and this one is the same as that. We need to change that. So looking at this, I can tell that I want this front corner here to be solid. And what I mean by that is see this side right here? There is not a matching one over here. This wall just comes 90 degrees. Just like that. So to mimic that, I would need to ignore that corner right there. And if I did that, I can do that. So I'm going to get rid of that line. I don't want to cut there. Okay. Now, so come down here, or come down, go over. This is not a big enough wall. It's just not. But I can come down here on my mat, and I'm using various lines to do things. I'm still drawing to this front point right there, if you can see where I'm pointing. I'm still going to draw to that point, but I'm not going to use this one. So let me do this. I'm going to use my mat to extend that side a bit. I'm going to use the 1 inch mark. All right, there we go. So I'm going to color this in so you'll see. That this is going to be one side. All right, right there. Definitely a little wonky looking, but it's okay. I'm okay with that one, sort of, but I want it to be a little wider wall. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to extend the distance to maybe I'm going to go from the 2 inch to the 2 inch. So I'm going to use my ruler, and I'm just going to draw a line like that. Color this in, and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so far so good. Can you see that the walls are definitely a little irregular? And if it looks weird when you're building it up, keep in mind we're going to be adding staircases, facades outside, and stone elements to this. So even to my eye, I know this looks a little wonky, but I'm okay with it. Once again, I'm not happy with this wall. It's just too short. See that? I don't know what that distance is. It is a little over 1.5 inches wall. That's too thin. None of these walls are less than 2 inches. So again, here what I'm going to do is I'm not going to go 2 to 2. I'm going to go maybe a half. Actually, no, I could go 2 to 1. We'll make it symmetrical front to back, sort of. Let me show you what I'm talking about. And you know what? I'm going to take a pause for a second and check for questions and see who's here. All right. So far, so good. And yes, it looks weird. I know. All right. So grainy on my end, says Bethany. I am sorry. Bethany, this camera, I am getting rid of it. I've got to go to, I'm doing some investigation right now on some better cameras. So hard to believe we're 1 week away. I think okay, spray it with fixative and field it in your next video. All right. Let me check to see. There's 2 questions submitted. Let's see. Well, Ron says, hey, what's up, Jim? Okay. Will these vids be saved over to YouTube? Kemper, I'm going to try. I don't think Crowdcast allows me to, but they will be saved onto the patreon.com/the Tabletop Engineer landing site. So you'll always be able to watch it there. So I hope that's okay. If I can figure out how to export it down and then run it through some cleanup and then move it over to YouTube, I will certainly do that. I think that's a great idea. I just, off the top of my head, I think Crowdcast does not allow me to do that, but we'll see. All right, so I'm going to keep. Let me see. This was the front. So front. Let me cut these sides and see what we're looking at so far. Okay. Now, while I'm cutting these, I want to tell you the trick to making a tower is this. You draw the wall, or you sketch out the wall using your ruler, and it's a rectangle, okay? You make a rectangle first. Then you're going to trim away pieces and angle them in, because the wall is going to be going in, and you have to, I don't know the geometrical term for it, but when the wall angles in, you have to trim those edges in a little bit in order to be able to glue them to the next wall and give you that angle. The trick is, it is very tricky. Just a couple millimeters in of an angle, and you could have a really steep wall. It depends on the height of the wall. I think the shorter the wall, the bigger you'll notice the angle. We'll get to that in a minute. All right, so I'm going to flip this over. So there is the basic shape of my tower. I have front, side, the back, and none of these walls are really identical. I think no, this is too much. This was not. Yeah, they're all different. Can you see the angle here, here, and down here? Everything's reversed on my camera. Here, here, and here. All these angles are different. All right, and that's gonna come into the wall portion of this. All right, so now with the base done, I want to get the walls. The 2 inches here, and then the 4 inches of wall. So we're talking about 6-inch high walls being glued to each of these edges and going up. All right. So to explain how this works, let me see what I can do here. Now, if one of you is watching me is texting me right now, okay. Sorry about that. All right, so this piece right here was cut 6 inches. All right, I already have it 6 inches wide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure. I'm going to start with the front, and I need to label that. By the way, guys, whenever you're working on stuff like this, you really, really, really need to label it. I'm going to reverse my tower. The flat side that makes a 90 degree with the front is over here with the stairs. I'm going to make it on the left of my tower. Well, I hate this because everything's reversed. I'm going to put it on this side. Okay, so there's the long side. So I'm going to label this with an F and B for back, and then this will be the left and the right. Technically, I should know left from right if I have the F and the B, but these might get covered up at some point. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put it in the center of it here. Okay, so that if these letters ever get covered up, I'll still be able to look down in there and hopefully see. This is going to get covered up when I put the first floor on it. Now, when I create the first floor, I'll transfer this. At some point, the tower is going to get big enough that I will know, oh, that's the front, oh, that's the left side. But it's still a good practice to get into labeling your stuff. And I say this from experience only because I have made many mistakes of gluing things reversed, and then you have to rip them apart or start over. All right, so let's start with the front. The front is, and you want to get something really, really accurate to measure. This is not the greatest ruler, but it's pretty good. I cut this to pretty much 5 inches. Now, there is a 1/16 of an inch thickness in the chipboard, and all I can tell you about that is that you have to, you're going to have to make allowances for that when you're gluing things together. There is no hard and fast rule for that. I can't offer you any advice other than to say you just learn that on one piece you might trim it 1/32 or 1/16 of an inch thinner than it should be, and it'll allow your chipboard walls to be glued together. So this is 6, and I said it was 5, so I'm going to make a mark here at 5. I'm going to flip this around and make a mark at the 2. I know this is probably something you guys know, but anytime you use a square ruler, always measure from the same place. I don't know if you noticed. I had it like this, all right? So I go to the corner and I measure down 5 inches. Now to make the mark over here, I could do this. I could just flip it like this, all right? But you can also rotate it 180 degrees and then just measure from down here up whatever you need. So I went from 7 to 5. There's the 2. And hopefully I've got me a square piece. And the other thing I cannot really tell you is when you make a mark, your pen mark, has a certain thickness to it. Do you cut to the left of the mark? Do you cut to the right of the mark? Do you try to get right in the center and split the difference? I always try to cut to the left of the mark, like what I'm doing here, except it's reversed on video. So for you, it's looking like I'm cutting to the right. Always try to cut from the same position if you can. If you forget, no biggie, but you'll get to where it's sort of second nature to you. I always cut, like when I'm making a cut, I always put the dot so I can see it just to the right of the ruler, and then I cut to the left of the blue mark. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. You can see the mark is, well, no, it was like this. Sorry. I cut to the left and the left, a little bit left here. No biggie. All right, so is this 5 by 6? Let's just check it out. Pretty darn good. And then this, oh, not this. Here's my base. I've got the hot glue gun warmed up. This is going to go on the front like so. But remember, we need an angle on it. Okay. If I glue this just like it is, and then I put, say, one of these close sides on, if I want that angle, I have to bend them in. Well, if you don't cut an angle here, you won't be able to bend these in. They'll just square up at 90 degrees, and your tower will be a straight box, straight up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to explain and show you how I do this. So assuming you've got a 90 degree, let me use my 3, 2, 1s here. All right. So if I put these together like so, the board is a little bent, but that's okay. This is straight up 90 degrees. I want to angle it in maybe 1 or 2 inches. There's not a lot of conversation in the chat. I hope I'm still live with you guys. Let's see. Any questions? I still got only 2 questions. So you guys are just sitting back and enjoying this, aren't you? Say something nice. Nice. You are. Okay. Thank you, Bethany. I'm going to get over that, but right now I am always worried that I'm losing connection and just talking to myself, which is not a bad thing. I'm going to angle this in 2 degrees. All right. Now, if I had a protractor, I could probably figure out how to translate that degree to how much to measure in up here. But in a nutshell, let's just look at this. To make that angle, you're going to make a mark up here that's just a few millimeters or maybe a millimeter in, and you're going to cut from this unmarked corner up to that. So this piece is technically no longer a rectangle. It's got a slight angle up to here. The bigger this distance that you cut over to here, the greater the angle here, the greater this wall is going to go in. Okay? So this is one of those things where you make a very small cut. I have a protractor. I don't think I have 30 minutes to an hour to remember my math equations. I could tell you there. It has to do with Pythagorean's theorem, and we're going to make this angle in, and then I have to use sine, cosine, tangent, something like that to figure out what this actual angle is. You guys? I know one of you is going to say, "Do it." Maybe in the next video. All right. So remember, we're going to be making a very shallow cut. So don't make a big cut. Make a small cut. How small? Well, I'm using a ruler that has imperial on it. So this is only to 1/16. I'm going to split it. I'm going to go 1/16, and I'm eyeballing it, which is horrible. But again, we're dealing with chipboard and foam. You're allowed some wiggle room. All right. So I made the mark on both sides because I'm not sure which one I want to cut. This corner is very crisp, and this one has a little bit of a tear. So I'm going to use that one. Now here comes the tricky part. Do you cut? And this is preference, whatever you want to do. Do you cut measuring your ruler from the bottom to the mark that you're cutting in, or do you flip it over and put it like so? I cut towards myself, and don't lecture me. I know a lot of people say that's the horrible way to do it, but I do that because I can see the mark down here better than I can see it up here where the ruler's touching the corner. So I'm just eyeballing this, and I'm going to show you the sliver I'm cutting. It is tiny, and you have to be careful here because when you're cutting these very small slivers, you can accidentally move your ruler off of the. I mean, the blade could slip and slice you. I mean, let's see. Let me spin it right here. Can you see how thin I cut? That's a 32nd of an inch. Eyeballed. Now I got to do it on this other side too. So I'm going to make the 1/32 mark here. I'm going to make it here. Well, I don't know why I'm marking it on both sides because technically I have to cut to this mark because it's not square here anymore. And if you ever if you ever can't remember which side is cut, you can always put it on a square mat like this, and I can see the gap. There's a gap right there. I don't think you'll be able to see it, but trust me, it's there. So I need to use that mark to cut from. So what I'm going to do is this time I'm going to cut with it at the top so I can see it on the right side of the ruler. All right. Now, does that still... Remember when I told you that your eye can pick up things? I don't know. Can you see the bevel or the angle? I can. Let me clean up the sides. You may not be able to, but it's thinner up here than it is down here. And what you're going to do is you put this on here, and you can't do this with one wall. You have to have at least 2 walls. So I'm going to put this here. I'm going to label this up and base. Okay? And I'm going to put a symbol up here like so that I remember that it's coming in this way. Okay? See that? All right. Let's see. No questions. All right, you guys are being great. Nobody's chatting. Everybody's just watching. So sorry. All right, so let's cut one more wall. I need to, since I cut the front wall, I either need to cut the left or this front right wall, or left wall to you. Does anyone know, can you buy cameras, webcams or whatever, that actually retain the orientation? This cam has got everything reversed. So this right here is actually on my right side, but looking on the screen, it looks like it's to my right. On your screen, it looks like it's to my right, but it's actually to my left. I'm pointing to my left right now. I hate that part about webcams and iPhone cameras. If anyone knows, let me know, because I would really like to get a camera that keeps the orientation right. So when I say that that's left, you don't see a backwards L. You actually would see the L. All right. Let's make one more wall. I need to cut a 6-inch tall, and let's do this angled wall here. So this distance is 2 3/4. 2 3/4. Remember that. So I'm going to first mark 2 3/4 so I don't forget. 2 3/4. Actually, you know what? I'm going to cut it to 6 inches because I know I'm going to need more 6-inch long pieces. So let's do that. 6 inches. All right. So I'm going to make that front right wall. I try to stop talking when I'm cutting so I can pay attention. All right. So this was the 6-inch. No, this was 6. Yeah. All right, now I need to cut a 2 3/4, 2 3/4. Flip it this way, 2 3/4. No, this is what I don't want. All right. Okay, here we go. Now you remember that 1/32 mark that I made to cut the angle? All right. I need to do that on this piece. So to do that, I'm going to label this up and base. And I'm going to make the 1/32 mark here. Wow, that's going to be a small mark. I'm going to make it here. And then I've just got to cut from the base down here. So let me go ahead and do that. Now, if I nailed this on the first shot, I'm going to be happy with the angle when these two pieces are glued together. If the angle is not sharp enough, I go back and I add another 32nd inch, or that little tick mark in, and make the angle just a little bit greater. But I'm hoping I did this right. All right, trying not to cut myself here. There we go. All right. I'm glad I labeled it up and down, because on these thin pieces it's really hard. You still have to you'd have to go to the ruler and square it up, and then you would see. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that or not. Let's see. You would be able to see the small cut that I made. Can you see that gap in there? Yeah, you can see that. See the space through it. All right. So you could do that if you ever forget which angle. Where's the top and the bottom. All right. So bring this back over, up and up, and the base. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to temporarily, I'm going to turn this way so you'll be able to see the back of it. I also always glue the words out. Does that make sense? That way, if it's like this, I'm not having to look and try to see what's in here. I'm going to glue it with the words out. So this piece is going to go here. This piece is going to go here. Now, if I do them straight up 90, can you see that gap in there? But if I glue these together, oh man, I did a good job on that. That's the angle I want. It's hard to see it for you, but when I glue these on, I'm going to show it to you. You'll be able to see the angle. And when all 8 walls are glued at that angle, this part up here is going to be much, I don't know the right word, I'm sort of at a loss. The angle is going to be noticeable, but it's not going to be drastic. It's going to be a very subtle, that's the word, very subtle angle going up. Now, the fun part is once you get all these walls on, you're going to want to glue in the first level base, right? So that's kind of hard to have a small opening the floor is going to get bigger. So before we seal this off, before we do all the walls, we're going to have to make that piece and then trim that piece as needed as we glue the walls on. So it's okay to go ahead and glue 2 or 3 walls, which is what I'm going to do right now. Now, when I glue, what I do is I glue on the piece that's going to be vertical. Instead of trying to put glue on the base edge, I'm going to put it here, and then I can touch it and then put it on. These are going to be glued straight on, and then I will pull them in and angle them, okay? You can't do that for all the wall pieces, but you'll see. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is make sure I got it up. So this is the bottom. I'm just going to draw a bead here. Is my hot glue gun not on? Oh, it is. Oh, okay, there we go. All right, up. And I'm going to give it a good double extra there because it's not going to be seen. I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to press it up against. There we go. Now it is going to stick. There's going to be some squeeze out, and it's going to stick to the mat. So I'm just going to let it be for a second. You'll see it's already setting up. And I'm going to go ahead and do this one. I'm going to glue this here. Okay. So again, I'm putting glue on the bottom base here. I'm going to glue it on. There we go. All right. And I can tell there's squeeze out because it's coming out up here, so it's probably coming out on the bottom. All right, so there we go. Technically, I could just leave this like this and just work on it as I need it. I might do that, but in a second, I need to glue these walls. Okay, I need to glue them because if my hand accidentally hits one, it's going to break that seal. The other thing you're going to want to do once you're sure that it's sealed up here or the glue is dried really nice, pull it off carefully. Well, see, I just made a mistake there. You can go ahead and seal it like I'm going to do here. You could put a bead in on the inside. Try to do it where it's not going to squeeze out through the seam where it meets. Just do its surface. It's gluing this surface to this surface. You don't want to get it down in that seam. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my ruler under, or my blade under here, and hopefully free this up. Yeah, there we go. All right. It's very, very flimsy. So now we have to fix these walls. Now here's what I'm talking about. If you don't trim one of these walls just a little bit more than the other one, you end up with this notch. All right. Normally, if you're only doing a chipboard build, the notch can be a problem because it's very noticeable. This is going to be covered with foam, stone. All right. Just like that. So I don't care that there's a notch, but you still have to, you don't want to leave a bead of glue in the notch. You could. It's better to do what's called a butt joint. It's literally called a butt joint. It's where one piece butts up against the other. They don't meet at an equal angle. Let me see how I could do this. They don't meet at an equal angle. One side is actually glued over the other. It's a butt joint. So to do that, it doesn't really matter. I don't think I've ever figured out if there's any pro or con. I'm just going to put a bead of glue down the smaller edge, like this. And you want to go as far as you can without getting it on the other wall. I can't go all the way down. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to force the big wall over the small wall. And there will be a slight bulge. Let me show you. There's a slight bulge down here. While glue's cooling, you can run your finger over and smooth it like that. All right. I can see the angle, but maybe you can. It's there. Yeah. And as the tower gets taller, the angle is going to be much more obvious. I don't know if you can see it, but there is a slight angle there. All right. Let me check your questions. Anybody got any questions? Nope. No more questions. Excellent. It's if the tower is on your left-hand side, then it's reading right to me. Yeah, Eric, everything's reversed here. I'm hoping to find a camera that maybe the software, flips it before it projects it. I don't know. We'll see. I would like the camera to show you exactly what I'm seeing. Right, correct. Thank you. Right equals correct. Yeah. Now I understand. It's reading correct to me. Got it. If the tower is on your left-hand side, then it is reading right. It is reading correct to me. So that's weird, because on my screen here, the tower looks to my right. Here's my left, and I'm pointing at the tower. Here's my right, but on the screen, the tower is portrayed on the right. Anyway, too much to worry about right now. All right, let's do one more wall, and then I need to work on the base here. Now, one thing I didn't do, I know you some of you haven't even said it yet. I forgot to cut the opening door here, where the mouth will be. I'm not worried about that, because once I get the, I don't know where the first floor is going to meet up. That's where I want to make the cut. And by that point, this thing will be pretty sturdy, because I'm going to put some foam in here as bracers, and then I'll be able to use a very sharp blade and cut a door. Now remember, it's going to have foam and maybe even 3D printed. Well, no 3D printed stuff, because I said no 3D printing. Whatever I end up doing for like the doorway here will cover any mistakes I make on the door. So there you go. All right, I want to do the left wall because it's the longer, and once I put that in, I will need to stop and then do the first floor piece, and I'll be tracing this piece as a template, and we'll get to that. We've got 20 more minutes. We can do it. I'll shut up. This is my 6 inches. I need it's not long enough. You're looking at, over here is the last of my chipboard. I am going to have to Amazon or get some chipboards sent to me. All right, I need to make another 6-inch wide piece here. Just bear with me while I cut it. If you're wondering why I'm marking and not using the marks on my table, I can use the marks on the table. They're just sometimes, because of the thickness of the chipboard, it's hard to know exactly, like up here. Where I'm sitting, I can't get the angle. I can't see if this is actually on that black line or not. This chipboard is not always 12 by 12, and I can tell that because down here at the bottom, down here, it's just maybe a 64th or a 32nd of an inch beyond the line. So it's not a true 12 by 12. So you just got to keep that stuff in mind. I don't always go for super accurate. There's a lot of forgiveness when you're working with chipboard and foam. But if you are going for exact stuff, just always remember that this chipboard comes from the factory. I've never had true 12 by 12 pieces. There's always a little extra. And they may do that on purpose. I think possibly they do that on purpose because they know crafters probably are going to be using it. And that little extra allows you to allow for what they call kerf. Kerf is when, like in wood, the thickness of the blade, when it goes through wood, you lose that much material. So if the blade is I'm exaggerating here, but if the blade is a 1/4 of an inch and you have a 6-inch piece and you want to cut it into 2 3-inch pieces, when you run that blade down, you're destroying a 1/4 of an inch that it's chewing up. So you're never going to have true 3 by 3 pieces. Same goes for cardboard. Even though a blade is very, very thin and you're making very thin cuts, as you make more cuts going left to right or right to left, a little bit of cardboard is removed. And so if you were trying to get a true 12 inches worth of parts, you might end up with 11 and 0.88 or 11.9 worth of material. I hope that made sense. All right, so this is 6 inches. Now I need to know what the side length is, and it is... And I am going to measure by adding the extra thickness of the wall of the chipboard there. So it is 7 1/8. 7 1/8. Okay. So this is 6 inches tall. I want 7 1/8. Where'd my pen go? I try to get in the habit of always closing my blade too, and I'm not always good at that. I need to make it this way. 7 1/8. Flip it over. 7 1/8. All right. And then before I glue it, I don't think anybody's reminded me. Nope, nobody. You guys are supposed to say, don't forget. I won't forget. I'm supposed to cut off the 1/32 to make that angle. Y'all probably expect me to remember that, and I would have. All right, so up, base. All right, so I need to make the little 1/32 mark so I get that angle. The walls will be angled. And man, that glue gun it's really cold here in my basement. Not really cold, but it's cold. And that glue gun, I guess it's trying to maintain a certain temperature, and it's not a bad smell, but it is really putting out the fumes, the hot glue fumes. All right, let me make this cut. We are almost done with 3 walls, and now I'm going to be working on the first level base, because again, you have to do that before you seal it up. And it's kind of hard to do it until you nail these angles down. You don't know what the angle is going to be until you actually start making it. And if you make it too steep, the interior will have to be smaller. If it's shallow, it'll be bigger. So I'm still, like I said, I'm going to trace this and work off of that to get it where I need it to be. All right, so I made the 2 cuts, and I'm just going to verify. Did I do it? Yes, there's an angle there. And there's an angle. No, wait a minute. Jim, I cut it too tall. That piece, well, it's not useless, but I'm glad I cut it wrong. I'm sitting here chatting with you. All right. 6 inch by 7 and that cannot be right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. No. I cut that wrong. This is where did I get 7 1/4 from? What was I doing? Oh, I was measuring. Sorry, folks. Rewind. This side is 6 inches, and I need a 6 inch by 6 inch wall. I don't know where I got that 7 1/4. Did anybody notice? How did I measure a 7 1/4 on that? I don't know what I did. All right, so 6 inches. So this will be a 6 inch square wall, and then I cut off the 32nd of an inch. You guys are going to have to yell out if you see me make an error like that. Don't think you're going to embarrass me. Flag it on the screen. Say, dude, you just cut it wrong. Because when I'm talking to you, I'm not 100% in the zone. I'm not blaming you guys. I'm just letting you know that there will be errors down the road. Luckily, I caught that one before I could not have missed that one. It was obviously never going to fit on that wall. But sometimes you glue something in, you miss the mistake, you glue it in, and you've messed up. You got to start over or tear it up, and hopefully you can repair it. I do not like to pull hot glue apart on a chipboard, so I've had to start over sometimes because, the damage is just too much. All right, there we go. All right. And while I'm thinking about it, I didn't label that, so I'm going to label that up and base. All right, did I do that? I did that side, and I did that side. All right, now we're good. All right. This piece, I'm going to flip this around so you can see interior. Outside, this piece will glue here and then angle in. Cool. All right, so I need to glue here. And then I am going to squeeze it in. Come on, there we go. All right. One good thing about working in a cold basement is the hot glue is drying much faster. During the summer, honestly, the hot glue dries so slow down here because it always stays cool in my basement, but it's never, it's never cold. And the hot glue just sometimes it takes a really long time, especially when you're doing long lines like that one. Now that one, I am going to run a bead inside, just a little extra. And remember, I'm just doing this just for strength. And then what I'm going to do is sit the blade under here and just hopefully free it up. There we go. And before I forget, I'm going to get a new blade. 1 second. These Olfas, this came as a recommendation from Jeremy over at Black Magic Craft. Seriously, just love this. All right, let me throw that away. Excuse me just a second. All right, so that should be set up nice. It is. Now to glue it here. I'm going to do the same. Since this is the front, I am going to glue it over this just to be consistent. I glued it over the side over here, so I'm going to glue it over here too. So that means I'm going to be applying the glue to the new wall and then putting the front wall over it. All right, and then bow like that. And remember, before it cools too much, just run your finger down it. If you do it too soon, you're going to get burned. It's just knowing how long it takes. Usually takes about 5 seconds. All right. A lot of you have probably seen me do stuff like this. These are the exact same techniques I used to make the big Thunderhawk knockoff spaceship. I used it to make, anytime I need a unique shape, I'll try to make it out of chipboard. It's just, it's easy to make your own box. Everybody still with me? Everybody hanging in there? We've got 9 minutes. I can do this. All right. So now I need to make the floor. And I'm going to use this as my template. Man, I'm getting really nervous here. I'm down to 1, 2, 3, 4 sheets of chipboard. I'm going to square it. I'm going to spin it around here. I'm going to square it where I know I have 2 perfect walls, like so. And then I can just trace the other walls. And again, this doesn't have to be exact because I'm making this as a full tower. I'm not making it to be taken apart, unfortunately. This is all glued together because I use it for Frostgrave. If you want, so let me make these marks. If you want to be able to take this tower apart level by level, that's going to be a little different complexity. I could do it, but I'm not going to for this one. So I traced it. Now I want you to notice the line here does not intersect there. That's because this is where a wall exists. There's not where a wall exists. So to take into that account, I'm just going to roughly eyeball how far those lines are apart and then cut over that much. So let me go ahead and do that. And it doesn't have to be exact. All right. If you were going, oh wow, I should have changed that blade. Should have changed that blade before I even started this project. That was 2 passes and done. All right. 1, 2. Wow. Always use a new blade. I'm not cheap, but I don't like to just throw blades away after like using them for one cutting project. So, man, but when you cut with a new blade, it reminds you that there is a reason you should always change your blade. That is so smooth. All right, almost done. So here we go. All right, so this is a duplicate of this, and you can sort of put it up against there, and man, I did a really good job on that. I can even look and see the thickness of the chipboard. I estimated it right. All right, so this needs to go in here, but can you see there's a gap up there? See that gap? It's because of that angle. The walls are angled, so this is not going to be a perfect fit. If these walls were straight up and down, this would be an exact duplicate, and it would fit perfectly in there. But I know that I've got an angle because I've got that gap, which means I need to trim off a little bit. How much? This is where it sort of like your gut comes in. But whatever you cut off on one side, you have to cut off on the other. So I've only done this a few times, but you can forget very easily which side you've made a cut on. So what I do is, this sounds stupid. I'm going to put a checkbox near each wall. See my checkboxes? All right. So I am going to take off this is a gut thing here. I'm thinking maybe just a 32nd of an inch. I don't think it has to be much. All right. So I am going to do it off the long sides first. I'm going to make a mark. You could eyeball this. You really, really could eyeball this if you want to. I'm going to try to use a ruler as best I can. Just because I want it to look good since I'm doing it for you guys. If I were just making this on my own, I would probably cut these sides with scissors. All right, and then I put a check mark in that box to indicate I have trimmed this 1/32. I'm going to go clockwise. If I go clockwise, that would be this way. You didn't catch me on that. All right, and just to show you, I am going to eyeball this one. I know what about 1/32 of an inch is, so I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to eyeball this. I've cut so many of these walls now with 1/32. I know roughly how much to pull off. I'm going to check, rotate. Are you any questions about this? This is not an exact science. There may be some math that you could calculate and tell you how much to take off based on the angle of the wall there. But honestly, I don't love geometry all that much, so I never really spent too much time thinking about things like that. But more points to you. If you want to come, I'll give you bonus points if you can tell me if there's some sort of math equation that you could run this through to tell you how small to cut or how much to trim off a floor based on a wall angling in and what that, whatever that angle is. So, all right, checking the boxes. I got 2 more to make. And you're doing this, you want to do it on all walls because if you miss one wall, you haven't shrunk the floorboard by the same proportion or the same percentage. It's probably a proportion since we're taking off increments of an inch. All right, I'm going to go ahead and check it to be a completist. There we go. All right, I can put this over this, and I can tell that, yeah, it's definitely smaller. Good. Now, the question is, all right, it is touching the 3 walls, and do you see a gap? I love it when a plan comes together. All right, I need to glue this in. And the other reason you have to do all the sides now is because once this is glued in, I got to put these other walls up. If you don't cut these, if I had not cut these 3 sides, I wouldn't be able to angle it in, and it's very hard to cut something like this that has nothing underneath it. It would sort of push down. It would be glued over here and then flexible on this end. So that's why I do all the cuts on an interior piece at the same time. Now here's the tricky part. I am going to measure, how much time do I got? Ooh, you know what? I can go a little longer than an hour today. I can go about 10 more minutes if you guys can hang with me. Normally I'm going to make these 1 hour, but I got 2 minutes left, not enough time. I am going to measure up 2 inches. And I'm going to measure up 2 inches. Okay. And I'm using, I can't remember. Did I use the edge? I did not use it. Yeah, I did. I used the edge. Always measure from the same place. So what I'm doing is I'm not measuring from the edge on the outside. I'm measuring on the inside where the 2 parts glued together. So and this is so that when you glue the floor in, it doesn't look like it's at a weird angle. Your eye would pick this up. If it were glued sort of at an angle, you would be able to see it. So if I stick this in here and I stick that in there, it does look pretty straight. The hard part is drawing that straight line. And for this, I'm going to use my mat here. I'm going to line up the flat here. And I'm hoping that I can do this and the lines will match up. We will see. I'm doing this where you can't really see, but I'm going to hold it up and show you. So I drew a straight line in there, and I used a 2-inch. I put this edge up against the flat line, and then I used my ruler lined up with another line at 2 inches to draw a straight line. Let's do this one and see how it happens. Now again, I hear some of you going, you're not being exact. Well, you have to, sometimes you have to make a little allowances for crafting things, especially terrain. All right. Actually, that does look pretty good. If I stick it in there and I touch it to this line and that line, I'm going to have to look at this from above. So let's see. Glue it there. And I'm going to glue it above the blue line so I can see from below. And if I do that, is that... It's hard to tell. I think it's accurate. I'm pretty... Hold on. I'm going to make a mark on my thing here. Can't really do that. All right, so I was using one of my 3-2-1 blocks to see if I could mark my fingernail where it goes. Forget it. I'm just going to glue it in. Now, this glue is very hot, so hopefully I can do the whole bead. I'm going to be gluing this side, and this side. So let's try and do a whole bunch of hot glue here. And I don't care if it gets on the surface because it's really not going to be seen when it's in there. Well, that's not true. I will do some stone work in there. All right, so I am going to put this on the blue line, and I'm going to push it down, and I'm going to pull it in. And I've got a few seconds to make some minor adjustments, and that looks like it did it. Blue line, I can see all the way around. Blue line, oops, it's a little high. It's a little high. I did it too high. Let me push it down a little bit. Oh, no, it's not. It's just this piece is once I glue the wall in, it'll be able to hold it at the right level. I also need to remember as I put new walls in to draw that 2-inch line so when I glue it on, I can make sure to sort of pull this down because it's wanting to curl up. That doesn't look right. This is what I talk about. When you have to break something, you take a risk. I'm not happy with it. So all I did was I broke it in one wall, and I'm going to apply some hot glue to fix what I see as it just doesn't look right to my eye. And I'm going on what looks right to my eye. So I am going to hold it in place and then run some more hot glue and let that dry really good. All right, there we go. Let's see, did I do it? Yeah, that's better. I did make a mistake. I glued a little above the blue line, and now I can, yeah, there we go. I don't know if the camera's, it's pretty level. I'm pretty happy with it. There you go. All right. I can't just wing it. I have to design mine in CAD. Oh, Ron, when I do things in CAD, I'm the same way. I love CAD's perfection, especially for 3D modeling. If I were going to do this, if I were going to design this myself in CAD, I would go for a certain level of perfection. But when you're dealing with chipboard and foam, you're going to be able to hide mistakes a lot easier than something that's 3D printed and is not flexible. It's permanent. I can't modify this at all. But this, I will be able to glue some foam on and stuff and hide mistakes and make things look more natural. So there you go. That is that's 50%, actually a little more than 50% of the base. I've got 4 more walls to do. Not 8, because remember I have this long wall over here that's not a true octagon, cutting it here. So I'm going to hang for 7 more minutes. I'm going to turn off my glue gun because I got to go get my kiddos. And I'm going to see if you guys got somebody posted a question. Let me see here. I designed mine in CAD, which takes the guesswork out. I guess it's the 30-plus years. Oh, Ron just made a statement. He didn't ask a question. Yes, Ron, I am so envious of people who work in CAD for long periods of time. I'm a CAD user of maybe 10 to 15 years. I had a little bit in college, but nothing good. So unfortunately, I'm self-taught. All right, so there you go. And I know it's perfect, isn't it? You can just see the dwarf tower right there. We're almost done. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, can you see how much glue I put in that corner right over there? I mean, I want it to be strong. So I get it, and I also got it on the wall back there. But again, this is inside. This is not going to be seen. Now, before I put anything on the top, let me give you a heads up. As I build these levels, I am not going to glue them on until everything's done. That way I can access in here and put like a stone floor down with foam. I could do the walls if I really wanted to, although I think when you look through here, yeah, it's dark in there. Unless you had some LED lighting in there, you really can't see more than an inch in. So technically, I could probably just do like the front half with foam floor, but I'll probably do the whole thing just to do it. But there you go. So we got the base, first floor, 3 walls. I got the 4 walls ready to go. What I'm going to do, let me ask you guys a question. You can comment here. Do you want me for part 2? Do you want me to start from here and do the walls? Or would you rather me put the walls on and stop there, with just the remaining 4 walls and stop there or start there for part 2? I don't really care. What I don't want to be accused is like skipping steps. So if you feel that that's sort of like skipping steps, I'm fine stopping right here, and then part 2, which would be probably Monday or Wednesday, I'll just I'll just do. I'll pick up right from where I left off. You guys, let me know. I guess I could make that a poll, but I'm not going to, since I've got a few of you on here. You can all answer. I'd say pick up where you left off. Okay, Eric, that's one vote. Anybody else want to vote? So far, I'm going to leave it here unless 2 or more people, because it's 1-0 right now. Bethany says, I agree. Okay, there's 2-0. There's 4 of you on. We're going to get a tie, aren't we? 2 people are going to say, leave it. I would say pick up where you left off. There we go. We got 3. We have 3 out of 4. 7 people signed up. Either 7 people were watching, but only 4 people are commenting, or the 4 of you are the inaugural participants of the very first live project. All right, so all 4 of you say start here. Done, folks. I can do that. All right, we are coming up on 1 hour and 6 minutes. I'm not even going to move the camera because that would take me a minute right there. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do that either. Thank you for joining me. I really hope you like this. This is one of my goals, is to do bigger projects like this that take a little longer, but they're not so stripped down in the editing where you might see something and then wonder, how did he do that? The whole point here is live feed, answer your questions, show you what I'm doing. If I do something, somebody could pop up a question real quick and say, whoa, stop. And I can pick up right there and we can go into more detail. So I actually enjoyed this, believe it or not. I enjoyed this more than the YouTube videos, although the YouTube videos are still very popular. I'm hoping that more people like these live events. And because I work from home, this is convenient for me. So anyway, thank you for your feedback. I'm glad you guys gave me that. So I am going to just set this aside, and when I pick up, I may do some tomorrow or Sunday. I doubt it, because I have a pretty full weekend with my boys and my wife. But if I find an hour or 2, I will certainly try to announce it with enough notice that you guys could jump back on again. But keep in mind, this will always be, it's not exact. When I click the close button, I want to say it takes like 15 or 20 minutes because there's some sort of processing that Crowdcast does. But this video will be available on patreon.com/thetabletop-engineer. You'll be able to watch this at your convenience. You can watch it again, and future videos will be like that. Now, once I switch over to a Patreon-only videos, which will happen in December, you'll only be able to watch some of these. I'll still have free things, but this project will probably go private just for Patreons starting on December 1st. So don't forget to go sign up as a Patreon backer. It's just $1 a month, and you can. And I'm going to keep doing these. When this one's done, I'll do another one, and I'll do another one. I may even put a poll out there or call upon you to tell me what you'd like to see me make. I can always veto it, but we'll give it a shot. All right, 1 hour and 8 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and go. You guys have a great weekend. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you either this weekend or probably on Monday with another live event. Take care. Have a good weekend. Bye, guys.